Okay, our four instrument families that you'll find in an orchestra or band are, of course, the brass instruments, the brass family, the strings family, the woodwinds family, and the percussion family. Each of these families is a little different because of a couple different things. Usually, they either have some part of their instrument that is different from the others, and especially, even more than that, how the sound is produced. So we're going to take a look today at specifically the brass family. Brass instruments are, of course, as you can maybe tell from the picture, made of a metal called brass, usually. There's a couple other things they have in common. Some of these brass instruments we'll get to look at up close because I have some of them to show you live, but others we'll just have to take a look at a picture and see what we can see from them. The smallest and therefore highest sounding member of the brass family instruments is the trumpet. I have here just a typical B-flat trumpet. Now, one thing that all of the brass family instruments have in common is the way that they make sound. The vibrations that cause the sound for the instrument actually come from your lips of your mouth. You kind of do a sound like a raspberry. It's called a lip buzz. If you tighten that up nice and tight, it gets a little more focused. And this mouthpiece helps focus the sound. This is a trumpet mouthpiece, so it's fairly small. They get bigger for the bigger instruments, but it's got this kind of concave section there that helps you focus that lip buzz, and when you do that, it focuses it into a tone. It sounds kind of silly on its own. So if I pinch my lips tighter and press in, it goes higher. And if I relax, it goes down lower. If you put that into the lead pipe of the trumpet, that helps resonate the sound through the tubing of the trumpet here. So here's what that would sound like through the trumpet. If I tighten my lips, it's actually going to jump up several notes to what's called the next partial. Jumped up a whole octave there. Now, I'm not a great trumpet player, but I can show you a little bit. For all the notes in between, we've got the valves here. Each of these buttons pushes down a piston in here that redirects the air through different tubes. So it makes it a little bit longer, which means that the pitch is going to be lower. So if I start on one of those no button down notes, and then I press them down, I can make the note step lower and lower. So that is how the trumpet works. A few other things that are common to all of the brass instruments, of course, are the bell, the wide portion at the end of the instrument, and most of them have valves of some sort, and the mouthpiece, of course. Now, to clean it out, all of these different sections can come off so that you can wipe it out once in a while, because since you're breathing through it, it gets a lot of moisture in there. It's not spit, it's just the water droplets from your breath going through. So every once in a while, you gotta open it up, dump the water out, shake it out, and even scrub it once in a while. Our next instrument from the brass family is the French horn. Now, as you can tell from the picture, the French horn is a little bit bigger than the trumpet, and it's curled into more of a circular shape. So that's how you can recognize the French horn in a picture, is that the valves and the tubing are all in a circle, and it has a wider bell. Because the tubing is longer and the bell is bigger, the French horn plays lower sounds than the trumpet typically. It often has a very rich and mellow sound. You might recognize the sound from a lot of film scores. The composer John Williams writes music for films, and he loves the sound of the French horn. Here is a picture of the French horn section in an orchestra. As you can tell, they've got their fingers over the valves, but they also put one of their hands inside the bell to hold it up. They can also move their wrist so that it blocks more of the air coming out to mute the trumpet and change the sound a little bit. Our third instrument for the brass family is the trombone, and I have a trombone here to show you. Now the trombone is a little different from some of the other brass instruments in one way. It still has a mouthpiece to help make the lip buzz focused into the sound. It's a little bit bigger than the trumpet one by quite a bit, so it can help you do lower vibrations with your lips. It still has a bell on the end of it where the air moves out, but instead of valves to push down the pistons, it's got a slide. The slide can slide out long. I'll back up here so you can get a good view of it. If this is the trumpet fully closed, first position, then you can extend all the way out there. You have to be careful though, because if you go too far, the slide can come off. It does that so that you can clean it, of course, but you got to be careful when you get it back on that you don't dent it, because then it won't slide very well. So same thing with the other brass instruments. If you make a lip buzz, it'll play a tone, and if you tighten it up, it'll jump up several notes. The slide helps reach all the notes in between. The longer I make it, the lower it'll go. And of course, because it can slide in between notes, the trombone is often known for making slide sounds. Because the trombone overall is longer piping than the trumpet and has a wider bell, it can play lower notes. It can play well down into the bass clef notes. Our final instrument for the brass family is the largest and lowest sounding one, the tuba. Now the tuba, it's hard to tell from this picture, is quite large and takes up a lot of space on your lap, so it plays the lowest notes of the brass family, quite low. Here is a picture of a tuba player. As you can see, she's holding the tuba over her lap. Her hand is coming around to the front for the valves, and she has the mouthpiece aimed towards her face.